So I want to start off by saying welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome. If you're a fanatic of everything entertainment, then this is the channel for you. But in today's movie review, we'll be talking about 2016's Terrifier. So let's get into it. So I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I reviewed this movie like 5 or 6 years ago when Robbie Long from Ogre Boy 1992 sent me this DVD because I at the time didn't have Netflix and I wasn't able to watch it. And there was no way for me to really watch it. So he sent me this a long time ago, and I did a review for it all those years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I think it's about almost 6 now, which is crazy to think about. I've been doing these videos for almost 6 years. Or 6 years now, yeah. Yeah, wow. I've been making videos for 6 years. Anyways, yeah, Terrifier, this is one that I bought into the hype with, but deep down, I didn't like it as much as I portrayed that I liked it. So it's been 6 years. It's my first time watching it in 6 years. But either way, let's find out what I like about this film. Now, I do like the opening with Victoria in here, which completely caught me off guard. You know, the first time that I watched it, I'm like, who is this? And why does she have the first kill in this movie? It just confused me a lot. But upon rewatch, I was more of a fan of it, especially after knowing what happens. Also, the way that she kills this chick that's talking shit about her, which... the character's name is Monica Brown that she kills, or we think she kills, but she's the babysitter in All Hallows Eve, which All Hallows Eve is not canon, thankfully, so we get to see her come back, and yeah, I do like this opening with Victoria now, and then seeing Art the Clown kick the TV after everyone thinks he's dead, but he's not. Another thing that I like about this movie is the fact that it's a very nice love letter to 70s and 80s Grindhouse horror movies, which... I haven't seen many of them because it's not really my type of movie, especially like the 70s films. But I do want to give more a shot because there's only like 3 or 4 that I watched, and I think like a majority of them I just wasn't a fan of. So, but I think this one is a very nice homage, and it does feel very 70s and 80s, especially with how low budget it is and all the lighting in here. The neon lighting I thought was really great. It just reminds you of a classic horror movie, and I'm just a fan of it. Also, I think this movie is fantastic with the budget that it had, which I think after post-production, I think Damien Leone said that they spent like $50,000, but the production budget was $35,000, which is very, very, very low, which is about as much, $35,000 is probably about as much as I make in a year, so... I could do it, you know, if I save up all my money, which I have bills, which not going to happen. And the producer in here, Phil, he is the main reason why we have this movie. So thank you, Phil, because he's the one that gave Damien Leone the money for this, which is absolutely crazy. Another thing in here that I want to bring up is the practical effects. It goes into what I just said, you know, with their very low budget. I think Damien Leone is great with everything that he does with these special effects. And he's like the special effects makeup artist for All Hallows Eve. He did a little bit on All Hallows Eve 2, if I'm not mistaken. The other film that he directed, I think it was Frankenstein versus the Mummy or something like that. Haven't watched it. I do plan on it sometime just to do like a Damien Leone deep dive. But yeah, he did all the practical effects in here, most of everything on Terrifier 2, and then he finally got a break with Terrifier 3. So that. I just think he's great in here. And then, speaking of practical effects, the kills in here. Everyone knows what I'm talking about when I talk about Terrifier. Everyone knows what I'm talking about when you bring up the hacksaw scene. You don't even have to know that I'm talking about Terrifier, but you know about the hacksaw scene. And that was something I really wanted to show my wife because she saw a clip from Terrifier 2 with the bedroom scene, and she was like, oh, it can't get any worse than that. They're on par with each other with the hacksaw scene in this one and the bedroom scene in the second one. So that kill was messed up. And then the pizzeria scenes, those kills are pretty messed up. I'm a fan of those as well. What Art does to the crazy cat lady, holy shit. I'm hoping she's dead because that was pretty messed up. I'll get into that later. And then when he does the coroner, I think we get to see more of that in the second film. It's just all the kills throughout. Pretty gnarly. David Howard Thornton brings his A game, and he does great in this first. This is his first time portraying Art the Clown, and I think he had it. You know, Damien Leone saw what he had in his hands, and he's like, "Yep, I'm gonna go with you," because David Howard Thornton is that good. I love that we finally have a modern day slasher icon. Art the Clown is basically like all these slasher icons put together. He is very expressive, like Freddy and Chucky, without talking at all. He is very silent. I love that. And his silent aspects come from like uh, Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, which I thought was great. So he's very expressive without saying a single word. Also, the runtime in here, I think it's like an hour 20, hour 30 at most. And I was complaining about that with All Hallows Eve because of how non-cohesive all those stories felt, put together. But this one, I think the runtime is perfect. I don't think this type of movie really justifies a 2 hour and 18-minute runtime like in Terrifier 2. But I do love this movie is not over an hour and a half. You can watch this and it feels like a quick breeze. Also, the set design and lighting, I already brought this up. It does look like a 70s and 80s Grindhouse horror movie. But the neon lights used and the way that this movie looks so cheap, but it just looks gorgeous in my opinion, which is really weird because this movie is very disturbing with what art does, but also very disturbing with how eerie this film feels as well. Also, I love the homage to Psycho, which, spoilers, if you haven't seen Terrifier, you need to if you're planning on seeing the third film. But I like that we think that Tara is going to be our main lead throughout the whole film, and I wish she was, but I do like that they pull a Psycho and kill her halfway throughout the movie. But I'll get into more on that later because I'm not fully big on the execution. Yes, I was being a bit punny there. Also, I love the music and score here. It is very synth, just like in the 80s. You can never go wrong with synth horror music from the 1980s. So with that said, let's move on to the things that I'm mixed on with this film. First thing I want to bring up is the characters in here. Aside from Tara and her sister Victoria, the sisters, everyone else, very hit or miss. They're very cannon fodder. They're just there to up the body count. But Dawn, I wish I liked her more than I did because she was just a very bad friend. I'm not saying she deserved what happened to her, but her dialogue was just very unrealistic. And if both of them were in danger, regardless if they're drunk or not, they would know that like there's something off about that clown. Thankfully Tara says something, but Don is just that goofy friend being like, "Oh, he's not gonna hurt you. You think he's gonna cut me up into tiny pieces?" So a lot of people bring this up and they put this in the negatives, but I'm gonna bring up the story when it comes to the mixed aspects. Yes, there is a lack of story, and it is a bit disappointing that we do have a lack of story, but I don't think this film really needs a story with an intricate plot, because I care about Tara, I care about Victoria, and that's basically all I really need, and considering, the budget and everything in the story, we didn't really need that big of a plot. We didn't really need that big of a story. I don't mind seeing characters just to die and be cannon fodder. I know I said that I was mixed on all that, but I get enjoyment out of this movie, regardless if there's plot or not. So with that being said, let's move on to the things that I'm negative with this movie. There are times where this movie is a bit too much for me, and you would think it's the hacksaw scene. It did disturb me the first time I saw it, but there is this one scene that still disturbs me to this day, and that's when Art the Clown kills the crazy cat lady, and he wears her scalp, her breast, and her private area. I don't really want to get too much further into that because I always thought it was just the scalp and the breast, but David Howard Thornton confirmed at a con that it was the downstairs area too. I'm not a fan of that, okay? Like, that was just a bit too much for me, and I was like, yeah, no. Even now, I'm like sitting with my wife, and I'm like, you're not judging me, are you? I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. Thankfully, I don't think there's nothing like too crazy like that in the second film. Hope they don't do that in the third, but if they do, I'm going to be sitting there like... Speaking of seeing Terrifier 3 really quickly, if you guys are a fan of Cody Leach, I'm hoping to finally meet Cody Leach, depending on how the weather is because of all these storms and everything, but... God, I'll be so close to be seeing Terrifier 3 with Cody Leach. I've been watching him for like 7 years now, so that'd be crazy to finally meet him because he's doing like a fan get-together and seeing Terrifier 3, so can't wait for that. If everything goes well, I'm going to be driving like 4.5 hours down there just to meet him, but I know that was really random, but just letting you guys know just in case he does pop up in my little shorts review of Terrifier 3, but that's besides the point. The last thing I'm negative on is the pussy move in here, and I know I just talked about the downstairs area and not wanting to talk about that, but not literally in this case. It's metaphorically. This is a pussy move that Art the Clown does. I don't mind. I don't mind when a killer has a gun. Okay, I don't mind that. I am just not a fan of when Tara is beating the shit out of Art the Clown and she has him in the grips of her hands and she's like, "Get up, motherfucker, get up." And I'm like, damn, dude, she's like a modern day Ellen Ripley, if not Sarah Connor, but with how badass she seems right now. And then 2 seconds later, Art the Clown pulls out a gun, shoots her in the leg, and then shoots her in the chest, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm like, come on, bro. That's something I brought up in my first review from 6 years ago. I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. Still not. I don't mind when a horror icon uses a gun, but I'm just not a fan of it when she's beating the shit out of you and you're just going to pull that out of your ass. Not literally, but he pulls it out, shoots her, and I'm like, come on, bro. You could have put up more of a fight than that. I'm just not a fan of that, but I do like his face whenever he has to go reload, go get more bullets, come back, and then shoots her like 5 times in the face. He just doesn't look amused. I don't know. I like his face when during that part, but other than that, I'm not a fan of him using a gun whenever she has the upper hand, and then you're just like, okay, boom. No, dude, no. But either way, with that being said, I'm going to be giving 2016's Terrifier an overall grade of an 80%. So yes, I do like this movie a lot more than I did beforehand. Even the first time I watched it, I was still a big fan of this guy. Speaking of which, I forgot to show this off. My Terrifier 1 shirt. I'm going to be wearing that at the fan get-together, hopefully. But either way, I'm seeing this movie Thursday, regardless if I meet Cody Leach or not. Like, bro, I'm excited. Either way, let me know in the comments below what you think about this film. Do you like it more than I do? Do you like it even less? Because the first time I watched it, I gave it like a... In my head, it was really like a 55, even though I told people like an 80. But I'm more of a fan of this film now than I ever was, and I can't wait to rewatch it sometime. But either way, I just want to say thank you for watching my videos, and I hope to see you in the next one.